So my craft is not public speaking, so please bear with me. I was actually hoping no one would come tonight. And yes, I wrote this at the last minute. All right. I'm Matt Shober, that's sober with an H, or Matt, or MSOL, or the woodworker guy. Whatever you want to call me is fine. I'm actually a bit shy, which is why I prefer to hide in my shop. It's usually my safe place, and I tend to avoid large crowds. I wanted to keep this pretty light, so I had a bunch of dry jokes lined up, but the guy who helped me with the presentation threatened to quit, so I couldn't do that. The reason is because I don't take myself very seriously, but on the contrary, I am actually very serious about what I do. I'd have to say it all officially started when I was about 6. I never quite fit in from the very beginning anyway. My great uncle took me downstairs to his basement to show me the latest project that he was working on, his family dining table. My eyes were immediately open right then. I realized that somewhere, someone made everything that surrounded me, and that's when I knew I wanted to make stuff too. What exactly, I wasn't sure just yet, but I spent most of my childhood sketching. But I was immediately drawn to architecture, furniture, and the Japanese culture. Why? Because they live in harmony with their environment. Their designs are artistic and functional at the same time. Unlike the cookie cutter house I grew up in with the laminated kitchen table. As a child, I tinkered with any tools I could find and random boards scattered throughout the basement. I became a master of terrible skateboard ramps and roller coaster-like structures. It was really challenging without a saw and the basic know-how. At 10, I started independently hand drafting and designing kitchens because my dad was the GM of a custom cabinet shop, which while I was writing this, I realized I'd never actually visited, once. At that point, I realized I was certain that I was going to be an architect instead of a starving artist, but it's funny how things work out. At 16, I started my first construction job as a laborer for a custom home builder during my summers and after school hours, all the while taking CAD courses throughout the entirety of high school. I even ranked in the top 4 out of the whole state as a high school architectural student. At work, I had to occasionally clean up after the woodworker, so I watched what he was doing whenever I could. This was the beginning of my experience. I finally headed off to college, an artist, a designer, and a carpenter of sorts, without any support system, as I was an artist raised in a house of 5 musicians. Just prior to leaving, I built a few things I anticipated I would need for the dorm room. An entertainment center for my stereo and CD collection, along with a few other things. These were my first pieces. Not that. After 1 year of architectural school, I began to have my doubts, but perhaps that's because I was more drawn to the minute details, the small things, relatively speaking, in regards to architecture. The pieces I use in my life every day. A beautiful building is empty without its furnishings. It seems really loud. The things you use, touch, feel, and look at every moment, every day. It is, after all, what's on the inside that counts. To me, what and who you surround yourself with matters. My slogan is art function in living environments. I believe the objects we use in our lives should be both functional and appealing. I believe the spaces we occupy should persuade our moods of preference. It wasn't that long ago that everything was handmade, and I think you can sense the soul of that maker in those pieces. I like to think you can in mine as well. Every piece I make is a little part of myself manifested into the physical form. It's been a long road on this self-taught journey, but I know I have even further to go. There's always more to learn and skills to perfect in my age-old craft, but it's that discovery and sense of accomplishment that keeps me pushing forward towards the impossible perfection. I enjoy challenges and challenging myself. I didn't get here alone. I have obtained a tremendous support system over the years with great friends and family. I have been fortunate to work alongside incredibly talented craftsmen and mentored by successful entrepreneurs. I don't know where I'm headed exactly, but this week we're finishing an office remodel in East York through Shober Construction, and next week MSOL is starting the singularly largest furniture contract in the history of my business for a tech company in Boston. You could follow our progress on Instagram also, if that interests you. If you too suffer from creativity, and I mean that suffer, the only celebrated and often rewarded mental disorder that I'm aware of, then you know what it's like. Why do I do what I do? I have to, or there would be an imbalance inside of me. Thank you.